Picture this. Scorching white sun, sand everywhere, men dropping like flies in the desert. General Thomas Alexander Dumas is standing there thinking, what kind of madness brought 50,000 Frenchmen out here? Was it liberty, or was it just Napoleon's crazy ambition? Either way, Dumas knew something had to change, and fast. Chapter 1. From Slave to Swordsman. So here's the deal. Antoine de Vida la Piterie. That's our guy's father. He's hiding out in Haiti, living off coffee and sugar plantations. And get this, those plantations ran on the backs of 500,000 African slaves who worked 12 brutal hours a day under the blazing sun and the crack of whips. Europeans wanted their sweet tea and fancy pastries, so plantation owners literally worked people to death rather than take care of them. It was hell on earth. Now Antoine, he buys himself a slave named Maurice Asset to be his concubine. She gives him several kids over the years. But then Antoine finds out he's got this huge inheritance waiting back in France. So what does he do? The dude sells Maurice and his daughters to another man and pawns his 13-year-old son Thomas-Alexandre into slavery just to get boat fare. The boy never saw his mother or sisters again. After a year of that nightmare, young Thomas-Alexandre finally steps onto European soil. His father's all excited to turn him into a proper count. Mornings doing philosophy, literature, and math. Evenings riding horses and swinging swords. And man, this kid could fence. He trains under the legendary Chevalier de St. George, this mixed-race genius who was a royal composer and the best swordsman in all of Europe. White students are watching with total envy as muscular Thomas-Alexandre goes toe-to-toe with St. George. But here's the thing. While he's becoming this badass fighter, Europe's getting more and more racist by the day. They're justifying slavery by calling Africans subhuman. France passes the Black Code. If you're a runaway slave, they'll cut off your ears and slice your hamstrings. King Louis XVI even bans mixed marriages and makes everyone with African blood carry special ID. Still, Thomas Alexander's cutting quite a figure in Paris. A powerful 6'1", when most guys are barely 5'5". He's living it up. Theater trips, fancy parties, the whole 9 yards. But then one night at the theater, some naval officer hits on his date and tells him, in your country, they put chains on your feet and hands. When Thomas Alexander fires back, the guy's friends try to force him to his knees to apologize. Both end up arrested. Meanwhile, his father's blowing all his money on jewelry and marries his 30-something housekeeper when he's over 70. Thomas Alexander doesn't even show up to the wedding, so Antoine cuts off his cash. That's when Thomas Alexander decides to go a different route entirely. Chapter 2. The Warrior. France is falling apart. Famine's destroying the peasants. The king's broke from helping America with their revolution, and he's trying to tax only the common people. They're not having it. They form their own government. Riots explode everywhere, and people are screaming for liberty and republicanism. The king's got no choice but to give in. In all this chaos, opportunists are torching estates and murdering folks left and right. Troops get called in to protect the countryside. That's when the soldier rides into a town north of Paris. Sitting tall and refined even though he's just a lowly private. He goes by Alex Dumas now, and he takes his honor seriously. He's already dueled 3 cavalry guys and beat them all. His father Antoine died right after he enlisted. Alex wanted to join as an officer like nobles do, but his skin color kept blocking him. He ends up staying with innkeeper Claude Labour and his family. Their 20-year-old daughter Marie, Louise, falls hard for him. They discover they all love what the revolution's doing, declaring everyone has rights. Dumas asks to marry Marie-Louise, and Claude says yes, but only if Private Dumas gets promoted to at least sergeant. 10 days later, Dumas leaves his fiancée behind and heads back to war. The revolution's in full swing now. They abolish the nobility, force priests to swear loyalty to the state. The king tries to run away and start a counter-revolution, gets caught and arrested. People call Louis a traitor, but the government keeps him as a constitutional monarch anyway. That pisses people off even more. Dumas and his cavalry ride into Paris to control angry crowds. He watches National Guard troops under Marquis de Lafayette straight up massacre protesters. But this whole liberty thing is spreading. In Haiti, slaves are revolting using the exact same ideas the French are talking about. But here's the catch. Just like in America, all this talk about liberty is happening right alongside hardcore racism. French legislators won't abolish slavery or give up Haiti. They're too busy dealing with King Louis XVI blocking their reforms, while Prussia and Austria threaten to invade if anything happens to him. So in 1792, the French National Guard storms the king's palace, kills his Swiss guards, throws Louis in a dungeon, and abolishes a monarchy. That starts wars with surrounding kingdoms who want to put monarchies back in power. And this is where Alex Dumas really starts making his name. His old friend Chevalier de St. George founds a Black Legion, an army of black and mixed-race soldiers, and makes Dumas his second-in-command. Every day Dumas is cutting down enemy troops and taking prisoners. He's basically running the Black Legion since St. George, and the other officers are mostly in Paris partying. Between battles, Dumas finally marries Marie-Louise. Just months later, the French Parliament votes on what to do with the deposed king. In January 1793, Louis gets publicly beheaded. The war keeps going, but the Black Legion gets disbanded after the Ministry of War accuses St. George of buying horses with government money and selling them for profit. So Dumas moves around leading different French armies. Oyudiro. And that's just the beginning of General Dumas's wild story. This man went from being sold into slavery to becoming one of Napoleon's top generals, facing impossible odds, standing up for what's right even when it cost him everything. His son Alexandre Dumas would grow up to become one of history's greatest novelists, writing the adventures his father actually lived.